Kevin Stefanski feels like his job may be on the line.
Really, really good. Yeah, cool. Proud of you. All right. Cool. Really, really nice job.
You're not fully proud, kinda.
I'm
kinda proud.
Look, for side, was a perfect no, but you made plays, you operated like. So it's just stacking.
I love when you tell the facts. Did you? No, but it's okay. It's okay.
Listen, you did a nice job.
Breaking news straight out of Cleveland. General Manager Andrew Berry just shook the entire Browns organization with a move nobody saw coming. With Kenny Pickett now out of the picture, all eyes are on Shedeur Sanders, who's suddenly looking like the clear front runner to grab that QB2 spot over Dillon Gabriel, and Berry is making sure the path is wide open for him to shine. What makes this wild is Berry's loyalty to Shedeur from the jump. Even when critics were circling like vultures and pointing out every flaw in his game, Berry never wavered. He kept betting on Shedeur's potential, working in silence behind the curtain to craft a system where the young QB wouldn't just survive, he'd thrive. That kind of patience and belief doesn't come easy in this league, and now we're seeing just how far Berry is willing to go to back his guy, and here's where things turned explosive. Berry dropped a bombshell move that had the whole locker room buzzing. He cut loose the entire offensive line that had lined up with Shedeur in that messy performance. Gone, just like that. That decision didn't just ripple through the roster, it sent a shockwave across the NFL. It was Berry's way of saying excuses weren't going to cut it anymore. If Shedeur was going to succeed, he needed protection and a team that actually had his back. But this wasn't only about swapping players, it was about shaking up the culture. Berry demanded accountability, real change, and an environment built for Shedeur to grow without being sabotaged. Instead of watching his QB get set up to fail, Berry took the boldest step yet to flip the Browns' depth chart upside down. And now, the whole league is watching closely, because this gamble just proved how serious Cleveland is about making Shedeur Sanders the future. But here's the twist that's got people talking. Andrew Berry's bold moves aren't just about giving Shedeur Sanders a fair shot, this is about the entire quarterback future of the Browns. Dillon Gabriel has been fighting an uphill battle with his height, and the front office knows the cold truth. In today's NFL, you need a QB who's built to survive the chaos. With Kenny Pickett gone and Joe Flacco's days clearly numbered, the search for that long-term answer just turned urgent. And that's exactly where Shedeur Sanders enters the spotlight. He's got the height, the frame, and the raw tools that scream NFL ready. In a league where size and durability separate stars from backups, Shedeur's build gives him a serious edge. He can see over the line, take hits from blitz-happy defenses, and still stand tall in the pocket. That's the kind of presence coaches crave, and the Browns finally look like they're ready to bet big on it. What makes this even crazier is Kevin Stefanski's sudden flip in attitude. Not long ago, he was one of the loudest voices throwing shade at Shedeur, questioning his potential and even putting blame on him when things went sideways. But now, Stefanski's talking like a man reborn, saying he's fully committed to molding Shedeur into the future of this team, no matter what critics think. That's a massive shift, and fans aren't missing the timing. With Pickett out of the picture, the narrative has spun completely.
Your offensive line that Shedeur had last year that Shedeur just had in this game is gone. My bad for not showing y'all that. So that entire offensive line Shedeur had yesterday is no longer on the damn team.
Shedeur Sanders isn't just in the mix, he's becoming the favorite to take the Browns into the next era. And make no mistake, his size and natural presence are the game changers tilting this battle against Dillon Gabriel in ways nobody saw coming. Where Dillon Gabriel keeps running into questions about size, Shedeur Sanders is starting to look like the full package. And that could be the very thing pushing him higher and higher on the Browns' quarterback depth chart. Analysts Wright even admitted Gabriel's got real flashes of talent, moments that prove he belongs in the conversation. But then he dropped the hammer, pointing out that Gabriel's biggest weakness is something no amount of practice can fix: his size. Wright flat out said this isn't a hurdle you can train your way around, and it's a serious roadblock to ever becoming a reliable starter in the NFL. And when you stack him next to Shedeur Sanders, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. Shedeur's height, his frame, and his overall presence fit the exact mold teams want in a franchise QB. Not only does he check the physical boxes, but Wright says his upside is much bigger. His tools suggest he can grow into something special long-term, not just fill in when needed. Wright didn't mince words. Lining these two side by side, Shedeur has the natural advantage, hands down. In his eyes, Sanders isn't just a prospect, he's the guy the Browns need leading them into the future. Even if his game isn't fully polished yet, his raw potential and commanding presence make him the obvious choice to carry this team forward. Wright doubled down by pointing straight at the training camp numbers, and the receipts don't lie. Sure, stats don't always tell the full story, but when you break it down category by category, Shedeur Sanders keeps coming out on top. Accuracy, higher, completion rate, better, poise under pressure, unshakable, decision-making, cleaner than the rest. Sanders has been separating himself with numbers that can't be ignored, but what really caught Wright's eye wasn't just the highlights, it was the steady dominance. This isn't one of those situations where a young QB shines for a day and then crumbles the next. No, Shedeur's been stacking strong performance after strong performance, showing consistency that none of the other quarterbacks have matched. That's the kind of reliability coaches dream about, and it's why his stock keeps rising. And it's not just Wright sounding the alarm. Mike Tannenbaum has been echoing the same message. While he gave Dillon Gabriel some props for handling preseason pressure with composure, he still circled back to the one thing that could haunt Gabriel forever.
But as Hebo just reminded me, he's in third percentile in height. It's really hard to have sustained success in the NFL. Drew Brees is the obvious outlier when you are so short. So to me, it's a big risk. You go from 4 quarterbacks, which we've talked about all summer long, to literally for a 40-year-old quarterback to be backed up by a very unproven, very short by NFL standards.
His size. Tannenbaum stressed that in the NFL, physical stature is often the silent tiebreaker between good and great. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you're undersized, defenses will find ways to expose it. In Tannenbaum's view, that limitation might cap Gabriel's ceiling no matter how sharp he looks in spurts. And now, TJ Houshmandzadeh has jumped into the mix too, making it clear that the real spotlight has shifted straight to head coach Kevin Stefanski. With analysts piling on and the data backing it up, the pressure on Cleveland's coaching staff just hit another level. TJ Houshmandzadeh didn't sugarcoat it. He said the pressure around Cleveland's quarterback drama is building every single day, and Kevin Stefanski has zero room for error. According to him, if Stefanski keeps holding back Shedeur Sanders or tries to downplay his role, it won't just frustrate fans. It could straight up cost Stefanski his job. With the organization and the fan base glued to every move, the margin for mistake is razor thin. TJ made it crystal clear. If Stefanski blocks Shedeur's rise, he's walking straight onto the hot seat. And honestly, you can already feel the temperature rising. Meanwhile, Andrew Berry's cards are now fully on the table. Every decision he's made screams loyalty to Shedeur Sanders. From cleaning house on that weak offensive line to pushing for a fair QB competition, Berry has gone all in. He's not backing away after a rough performance. He's doubling down, showing that he sees Sanders as more than just a preseason storyline. This is about building a foundation, a QB room that actually sets the Browns up for life after Joe Flacco. And the analysts, they're lining up behind this vision too. Nick Wright has been hammering the point that Sanders' training camp numbers and steady consistency put him in another league compared to the competition. Mike Tannenbaum, even while giving Dillon Gabriel props for preseason flashes, still circled back to the same issue. Gabriel's size could sabotage his future ceiling, tilting the balance in Shedeur's favor. Then you've got TJ Houshmandzadeh coming in swinging, leaving no doubts. His message wasn't just analysis, it was a warning shot. The Browns' QB situation isn't just a competition anymore. It's become a make-or-break moment for Stefanski's future. Now the real tension is boiling over in Cleveland. Fans are starting to connect the dots. Andrew Berry is putting all his chips on Shedeur Sanders, while Kevin Stefanski looks like he's scrambling to catch up. That split at the top of the organization is creating whispers that the head coach and the GM might not even be on the same page anymore, and in the NFL, that's a recipe for fireworks. Inside reports say Berry's moves have given Shedeur everything he needs to succeed, but Stefanski's history of doubting him still lingers like a dark cloud. People are already asking, Can Stefanski truly get behind the quarterback Barry clearly wants to build around? Or will his hesitation turn into sabotage? The more analysts speak out, the more Stefanski looks like the odd man out.
Concern myself with outside type of things. But I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
And here's the kicker. Players are noticing it too. Locker room chatter suggests that some veterans are quietly backing Sanders, impressed by how he's handled camp pressure without flinching. Others are waiting to see if Stefanski's actions match his new words of commitment, because talk is cheap in football. And if the coach slips back into old habits of limiting Shedeur, the team could split right down the middle. The Browns aren't just managing a quarterback battle anymore. They're balancing a power struggle between front office belief and coaching hesitation. And with every day that passes, the pressure isn't just on Shedeur Sanders to prove himself. It's on Kevin Stefanski to show he's not the one holding this team back. The cracks in Cleveland are only getting louder. Word around the locker room is that Shedeur Sanders has already won over some key players, and that's sending shockwaves through the depth chart. Wideouts have been whispering that Shedeur's timing and confidence in practice make him easier to trust than Dillon Gabriel, and even a few linemen are saying privately that they feel more secure blocking for him. That's not just chemistry, that's a shift in loyalty. But here's where things turn dangerous. Reports suggest not everyone's on board. A few teammates are still cautious, worried that pushing Sanders too fast could backfire and create chaos inside the locker room. That kind of split is toxic, especially when the head coach's own loyalty is already being questioned. Kevin Stefanski may have promised to support Shedeur, but every hesitation he shows just fuels the rumor mill that he's dragging his feet while Barry is sprinting ahead. And let's not forget the fans. Cleveland's base is restless. Social media has turned into a war zone, with hashtags blasting Stefanski for holding Shedeur back, and others calling Dillon Gabriel the safe option. The noise is only growing, and the organization knows once the fans turn, it's almost impossible to win them back. At this point, the Browns aren't just fighting for a starter, they're fighting to keep their locker room and their fan base united. If Stefanski makes one wrong call, it won't just put his job on the line. It could tear the team apart from the inside. The media storm in Cleveland is turning into a full-blown circus. Every sports outlet is dissecting the Browns' quarterback drama like it's the biggest soap opera in the NFL, and the spotlight is burning hotter by the day. Talk shows are roasting Kevin Stefanski, accusing him of dragging his feet, while Andrew Barry goes all in on Shedeur Sanders. Some commentators are even asking out loud if Stefanski is secretly blocking Shedeur's rise to protect Dillon Gabriel. And the fans, they're adding gasoline to the fire. Twitter, Instagram, and every Browns forum is split right down the middle. Half the city is screaming that Sanders is the future and must be given the reins now, while the other half warns that Stefanski's hesitation could ruin everything before it even begins. The hashtags keep trending, and the louder the fans get, the more pressure lands on Stefanski's shoulders. Even analysts are stirring the pot. Nick Wright, Mike Tannenbaum, and TJ Houshmandzadeh keep hammering the same point. Shedeur's consistency and raw tools make him the obvious choice. Yet the more they hype him up on national TV, the more it exposes the growing divide inside the Browns organization. This isn't just about a QB battle anymore. It's about who really runs the show in Cleveland, the GM or the head coach. What started as a simple competition for the QB2 role has turned into the headline story of the season. And now, with every camera pointed at him, Kevin Stefanski can't hide. Every decision he makes on Sanders will be magnified, criticized, and possibly weaponized against him. The Browns aren't just fighting for wins. They're fighting to keep their franchise from imploding in front of the whole NFL. The Browns' quarterback drama just hit a new level because now the NFL itself is starting to take notice. Sources say league officials are quietly monitoring the situation in Cleveland, not just because of Shedeur Sanders' rise, but because the internal tension between Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski is becoming impossible to ignore. When the front office and the head coach are sending two different messages, it raises red flags across the league. Insiders claim that rival teams are already circling like sharks, watching to see if this power struggle explodes. If the Browns can't lock in their quarterback direction, it could open the door for division rivals to exploit the chaos. Imagine the headlines if Cleveland's own drama ends up gifting wins to the Steelers or Bengals. That's the nightmare scenario fans are already whispering about. And here's the kicker. The media is now questioning whether Stefanski has lost control of the locker room. Reports suggest players are picking up on the tension, with some rallying behind Shedeur while others hesitate to buy into Barry's vision. That type of split can destroy chemistry before the season even begins. Analysts are already warning, if Cleveland doesn't get united fast, this could spiral into one of the ugliest quarterback controversies the NFL has seen.
They think they can actually make the playoffs
and
with him,
so if you want to start Flacco at the very beginning of the year, so be it.
In years, every move from here on out is under a microscope. If Stefanski benches Shedeur for too long, the narrative becomes sabotage. If he plays him too soon and things go wrong, critics will scream that he rushed the process. Either way, the coach is cornered, the GM is doubling down, and Shedeur Sanders has become the flashpoint for a battle that could define the Browns' entire season. And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, the breaking point has arrived. Reports out of Cleveland claim that a heated confrontation went down behind closed doors. Players, coaches, and front office voices clashing over Shedeur Sanders' role. Sources say tempers boiled over in a team meeting, with Stefanski on one side preaching patience and Barry pushing for immediate change. The room reportedly split, and that tension is now leaking into every headline. Whispers say a few veterans stood up and backed Shedeur, pointing to his camp consistency and demanding that the kid be given a fair shot. Others stayed quiet, but privately voiced that the constant back and forth is killing the locker room vibe. That's when things turned ugly. One insider described the atmosphere as toxic, with players starting to question whether they can even trust their leadership to make the right call. The fallout has been instant. Media outlets are now running with stories that Stefanski is officially on the hot seat, and fans are demanding answers. Social media is exploding with hashtags like #FreeShedeur and #FireStefanski. And it feels like the entire city is taking sides in a battle that should have never left the locker room. For Andrew Barry, this might be the defining gamble of his career. He's put everything on the line for Shedeur Sanders, and if this blows up, the Browns could face a meltdown that overshadows their entire season. As for Stefanski, every move he makes from here on out will either silence the critics or confirm the whispers that he's the one holding Cleveland back. One wrong call, and his time in Cleveland could come to a dramatic, fiery end. At this point, Kevin Stefanski's future may depend entirely on how he handles Shedeur Sanders. Analysts are warning that sidelining Shedeur any longer could push the coach straight onto the hot seat, and the spotlight is only getting hotter. The big question now is whether Stefanski's cautious approach is wisdom or sabotage. Analysts like Nick Wright, Mike Tannenbaum, and TJ Houshmandzadeh have all lined up with their takes, making it clear that Sanders' size, consistency, and raw potential give him the edge over Dillon Gabriel. But do you agree with them, or do you think Stefanski's hesitation is the smarter move in the long run? Most importantly, can you actually see Shedeur stepping up as the Browns' quarterback of the future once Joe Flacco retires? Is this the moment Cleveland finally finds stability, or is it just another chapter in their never-ending quarterback carousel? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Tell us who you think should get the QB2 spot and whether Shedeur is really the guy to carry the Browns forward. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this video with every football fan you know. We'll see you on the next one.